In the summer of 1816, a farmer in Vermont woke up to frost on his fields. Not in October. Not in March. In June. Snow fell in New England. Crops turned black and died in the ground across 3 continents. Livestock starved. Grain prices tripled, then quadrupled. In parts of Europe, people rioted in the streets for bread, and some, in the depths of desperation, turned to eating what they could find: cats, rats, moss scraped from stone walls. The sun itself seemed to dim. People called it 1800 and froze to death. And nobody, not a single scientist, priest, or king, knew why. The answer was 7,000 miles away, buried under a mountain that had already stopped smoking. Rewind 1 year, to April 1815. On the Indonesian island of Sumbawa, a mountain called Tambora erupted with a force no human being had ever recorded. It was heard nearly 1,600 miles away. Sailors mistook it for cannon fire and prepared for battle. The explosion killed over 10,000 people almost instantly. Pyroclastic flows wiped out entire villages. But the real killer wasn't the fire. It was what the mountain threw into the sky: an estimated 100 cubic kilometers of ash, rock, and sulfur dioxide, hurled more than 25 miles into the stratosphere. Up there, wind currents did something catastrophic. They spread a fine veil of sulfate aerosols around the entire planet, a sunlight-blocking shroud, invisible from the ground, but powerful enough to cool the whole Earth. It was the largest volcanic eruption in over 1,000 years. And its true victims wouldn't die in Indonesia. They'd starve a year later, an ocean away, from a sky that had quietly stopped working the way it always had. By the spring of 1816, the veil had reached everywhere. Average global temperatures dropped by as much as 3 degrees Celsius, enough to break the climate. In the United States, snow fell in June across New England and upstate New York. Frost killed crops in July. Farmers replanted 3-4 times, only to watch each planting die again. In Europe, it was worse. Relentless cold rain fell for months. Rivers flooded. Wheat and oat harvests failed from Ireland to Switzerland. Bread prices exploded. Riots broke out in France, in Britain, in the German states, hungry crowds storming grain markets and bakeries, demanding food that simply did not exist. Historians now estimate the resulting famine, disease, and unrest killed tens of thousands of people worldwide. Some call 1816 the deadliest single year of the entire 19th century in terms of climate-driven death, and almost no one at the time understood that a mountain, not God or bad luck, was responsible. But in the middle of all this darkness, something else was happening, something almost nobody connects to a volcano. In June of 1816, a group of young writers rented a villa on the shore of Lake Geneva, in Switzerland. They'd planned a summer of boating, walking, and sunshine. Instead, the sunless, freezing, endless rain trapped them indoors for days on end. Among them was 18-year-old Mary Shelley, along with the poet Percy Shelley, and the notorious Lord Byron. Stuck by the fire, staring at storm after storm outside the windows, Byron proposed a challenge to pass the miserable time. Each of them would write a ghost story. Mary Shelley struggled for days. And then, in that cold, ash-darkened house, lit only by candlelight while the sky outside refused to behave like summer, she had a waking nightmare, a vision of a scientist assembling a creature from dead flesh and giving it life. That vision became Frankenstein. A volcano on the other side of the world had, indirectly, helped create one of the most influential horror novels ever written. Here's the twist almost no one talks about. For decades, nobody connected Tambora, the famine, and Frankenstein at all. The eruption was 10,000 miles from Switzerland. Mary Shelley never mentioned a volcano in her journals. To her, it was simply a wet, ungenial summer. It wasn't until the late 20th century, when scientists began reconstructing historical climate data from tree rings, ice cores, and ship logs, that they finally traced the freakish 1816 weather back to a single eruption a year earlier, on the other side of the planet. In other words, for over 150 years, humanity told the story of the worst famine year of the 1800s and the story of literature's most famous monster as two completely unrelated events. It took modern climate science to reveal they were, quite literally, born from the same cloud of ash. The monster wasn't only born from Mary Shelley's imagination. It was born from a volcano's fury, a creation story stitched together, fittingly, from two pieces that never should have met. A single mountain, on a single island, changed the weather of an entire planet, and, quite by accident, helped write one of the greatest stories ever told. History is full of moments like this, hidden threads connecting the disasters we remember to the culture we still live in today. If you liked uncovering this one, I've got more stories just like it waiting for you. Check out my other videos on world history, you won't believe what else has been hiding in plain sight.